This is Signal Hounds talking RF, and today we're on location surveying and monitoring radio frequencies using the SP145 real-time spectrum analyzer, recording data in the field for playback and analysis in the lab, demonstrating the SP145's seamless compatibility with Spike utilizing tools like sweeping, interference hunting, LTE analysis mode, and IQ data recording.
Hi, this is Tom from Signal Hound, and this is Talking RF, and we're on site at Rocky Butte. We have the SP145. We're going to do some basic RF surveying and RF monitoring, really just to it's our first time out here, just to kind of get an idea of what the spectrum looks like. We're going to do some basic tests and capture some basic signals, and then take all that stuff back to the lab and see if there's anything interesting. So the SP145 basic survey mode, I'm just going to start with, in swept analysis mode, just look at the spectrum, just look at the entire spectrum. We have a simple antenna set up just inside the van, and we're looking at what's going on. And as you can see, this antenna is not a wideband antenna, but it's good probably out to around, 4 or 5 gigahertz, which should be fine. And we see quite a bit of activity in that FM band, and I'll kind of think that we don't want to spend any time at all in the FM band, but I'll go ahead and zoom into that and kind of show that off. But a lot of activity in that FM band. In fact, I had to turn the reference level down a little bit because those signals are really strong and just there. So we will kind of try to avoid the FM band. But just looking at the spectrum, there's quite a bit of activity. We're up above most everything in the area, and so we're at a good vantage point. And we'll take a look at that outside in a little bit here. So I got a swept analysis mode. I'm just going to do a short sweep recording here and kind of record this for my benefit later, so when I get back to lab, I can kind of remember what it is that we're doing. All right, that will be fine, and it just is going to save it in the sweep recording directory, sweep record today's date and the time that we took the recording. Okay, so I'm going to change to a different analysis mode. I'm going to go to the interference hunting mode. And in interference hunting mode, I'm going to go ahead and establish a baseline. So I'm going to put the offset at 15 dB, and I'll just acquire a baseline and see what happens here. All right, so at a 15 dB offset, you can see there's a lot of hits in that full span. So let's go ahead and make that a 20 dB offset to try to slow this down. Oh, that didn't. There it goes. Now I acquire the baseline. There we go. That's a little bit better. Again, a lot of activity in the lower frequency range, less activity up in the upper frequency range as we expected. So that's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and just capture some of this data and log some of this data, some of these, with not really paying too close of attention to what it is I'm grabbing. I just want to grab some data and I'll look at it later. Okay, and I'll do that just a couple of times here. Grab some data. All right. So we've captured some data, and we'll be able to take a look at that later. Now, the last thing I want to really do here in this space is there's really two things. I want to grab some recordings, but I'll also take a look at LTE mode. And I've configured a scan that looks at a whole bunch of LTE, and we'll just see what we have up here. All right, so I've configured a scan previously that has a lot of channels in it so that we can just kind of get a sense for what's happening, and we'll go ahead and start that scan. And in LTE mode, it's going to scan through all the channels that were in that configuration. And it's just I went through and grabbed the first 27 channels. Okay. Interestingly, only one cell tower sort of popped. Let's see what that is. It is an AT&T tower. Pretty strong. I'll go ahead and tune there. We can take a look at that, but that's interesting. There wasn't as much activity as I would have expected up here. All right, we set that to 719.5 megahertz. And yeah, you can see there is some activity. We're able to do a minimum amount of decoding on that. So it's unable to decode. Oh, there it goes. Got it a little bit. It's weaker than anticipated. It kind of tracks with my cell phone, I guess, because I don't have very many bars up here on my cell phone. So that's kind of tracking. All right. So the last thing I want to do is go into utilities and just do some IQ data recording while we're up here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this stuff that I caught up around 719. And then I'll give it some name that will be useful. So it's 719.5 or 719.5 megahertz. We will do the sample rate of 61.440. And 41.5 bandwidth. And I'll just grab a few seconds of that. Yeah, so the SP145 is a great spectrum analyzer for its portability, great frequency range from 100 kilohertz to 15 gigahertz. We can come out and see a lot of activity and see a lot of things that are going on that are in interesting ranges in the RF frequency spectrum.
Now that we've recorded the data using the SP145, let's go back to the lab and analyze it. Like, follow, and subscribe for part 2 of the RF surveying and monitoring field demonstration.